a Fanboys Inc. production.
Can you dig it, nigga sucker? Ooh, yeah!
We boo you because you're both a couple of world-class international a-holes.
Time to play the game.
This podcast is scheduled for 1 hour. 1 hour. And we welcome back the Lewis Perry. I'm back. Jack Inksling and Purcell, and you're here for the Faces and Heels podcast. And tonight we've got Ring.
Wait. First of all, I've been away for a month because I've been sick, and that's how you introduced me back. You're all black. What the hell? You can't even see you. You have no lights. You're stealing one of my backgrounds. We have a guest in the back. And last night when I was on my other show, the flagship show, the whole effing show, I was treated like a king. I am your co-host. This is your show. You run this. This is Jack Purcell, Inksling and Jack Purcell's thing. And you treat me like that? Wow.
We got a guest, brother. We got a guest. It's not all about
I know we got a guest. We got a voice. We have a voice. A voice. We gotta learn what it takes to be a voice in pro wrestling. So, why don't you introduce him so I can make fun of you because you're probably not going to announce him the way he should be announced.
You had an awesome intro going to you. Stepped on me, man.
I'm sorry, are you addressing me? Because your authority is not recognized in Fort Kickass.
All right, listen, I'm no ring announcer. I don't have the voice for it, but I know that tonight I'm going to be able to shoehorn in my favorite word to use on the podcast, fumfering. I just fumfered as I said that. But tonight, we got a guy who never fumfers, who's the face and the voice of multiple promotions, some of the best promotions in the Northeast. Welcome our big special guest tonight, Ethan Scott.
Hey, Ethan, what's going on?
Hey,
we
guys,
wore the
thank
same
you for
color
having
shirt.
me. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I made a mistake before I hopped on. I started rewatching Attack on Titan, and it ended on a part where it's just like, oh, what's going to happen next? And I'm like, I gotta wait to watch it. So,
let me ask you: how did you get involved in ring announcing? I mean, how did that come about, and what is? I know that also takes a toll on you. So, how did the ring announcing come about?
So for a couple of years, I was just doing sound for this promotion in Maine, and well, I did for multiple promotions, but this one promotion. They usually had a ring announcer that was from Canada, and one night he couldn't show up. So they were scrambling. They're like, hey, you could just do it all behind the sound table. Would you mind ring announcing tonight? Like, just write down everyone's info. You could do it behind the table. And I did it for that whole weekend because the guy couldn't show up. So that's how it got started. And then the next month, I actually got dress clothes. I got my hair cut, and I started announcing there. I think I've been doing this for, I know I've been involved in wrestling for at least like 8 years. I think I've been announcing for 4. So at least half of my time in wrestling, I've been ring announcing.
All right, I'm sorry, but yeah, when we were doing, when I was building the promo image for Jack, I had to raid some of your Facebook page. You were doing this for 8 years, but dude, you look like you're 12.
I look very young. If I had my goatee, I'd look older. But yeah, I've been doing this like since I was at least 20. Just doing this since I've been 20.
Whoa! So you're not 12. Holy cow!
No, I'm 28. I'm gonna be 29 this year.
Holy moly!
Nice.
Yeah.
I thought I looked young for my age. Holy cow!
Think again, Cal. Think again. Chris Hebert
Yeah.
says, "What's up, guys? Hey, Ethan. Chris is one of our awesome listeners, so he's pumped that you're here." One thing, Ethan, I always find it like in the world of pro wrestling, I always think about how a lot of times Lewis and I will be making parallels to the world of comic books, where we've got a lot of background also, and it kind of starts out where everybody wants to get into comics to be the penciler, but sometimes you end up being the writer, or the inker, or the letterer, or the colorist, or whatever. Did you initially want to be a pro wrestler, like a wrestler performer, or were you always just thinking that you had the skill set when they asked you to jump in, be a ring announcer?
So when I got involved, I always wanted to be a pro wrestler. The ring announcing thing, because I had been doing it, like just being involved in wrestling for a couple of years, like I was coming more out of my shell, I was more confident, but I never really thought I'd have the courage to do ring announcing. But I always wanted to be a wrestler, and actually trained like off and on multiple times. And maybe someday, maybe I'll get back to training and get back in the ring. But I'm loving what I'm doing now. But I never thought I would do ring announcing. Like I thought I was always like going to be a wrestler. But I'm really happy with how things are going right now for me, though.
Now, have you called a match?
Like commentary, I've
Yeah.
done. Yeah, I used to do commentary for Limitless like early on. Most of the matches I did was like early main state posse when they were fighting each other and they hadn't like formed as a team yet. And then I'm trying to think the last time I did it. I can't remember the last time I did it, but I did it a little bit early Limitless, and I did the main state street fight for Let's Wrestle when it was the main state posse versus the Syndicate. And I think that was the last match I did. That was the most insane match I've ever done, commentary wise.
What is your worst fear of ring announcing?
So my worst fear, it's actually happened. Obviously messing up someone's name, but there was a tag.
Oh, I do it all the time. What the hell, man? Don't worry about it.
Well, it's a tag team, but their initials are both CM. So I swapped their first and their first names with each other, and I did it in the ring. And they look at me and they're like, "Did you really just do that?" And I fixed it, and they gave me crap backstage for not like they weren't mean about it. We were all laughing about it, but I'm like, that was the biggest fear of mine because their names were so close together that I was going to screw it up. And
it's all right. Don't worry about it. I screw up people's names all the time. Jack, question.
Yeah, just ask Alec Price. He'll tell you all about it. So are you from Maine, Ethan? Because I know that when I first learned about you was through Limitless, and I know that you've done some work for other promotions up there, like Pine State Pro Wrestling, I think it is, and then Let's Wrestle, which I have questions for you about. So is that your home?
Yep. Born and raised in Maine. Yeah, like I never thought I'd leave the state for ring announcing, and it's kind of neat. But yeah, most of my experience ring announcing was within Maine because there's a lot of promotions. Like Maine's kind of like a small state, but there's like a lot of wrestling. And like you said, at Pine State Pro, I've done North Atlantic Wrestling Association numerous times. We're doing a show for them next month. IWE, which is no longer around. That's where I got my start. Yeah, born and raised in Maine. Done almost every promotion in Maine. Like I made a list. I'm like, I've done at least a good handful of them.
That's awesome. Wow, that's really cool. Because, I mean, you've really blown up. I mean, at least from my point of view, from a fan standpoint, it just feels like 2021 and 22, you really blew up. Because for quite some time, like we've had Matthew James on the podcast before, and I'm sure you know him.
Yep.
And he used to do a lot of announcing for Blitzkrieg Pro. But you've kind of become the voice of Blitzkrieg Pro. And then new promotions like Pro Wrestling Grind, like you're the voice of that company.
Yeah, like it's all, and it's weird to say this, because of the pandemic, a lot of people were given a chance to shine, because not a lot of places were doing shows. Like luckily with Limitless, we were doing tapings, we were doing the road, we did Pandemic at the Dojo, and then once we started doing the bigger shows, we did tapings for those. And a lot of people got to show what they could do, including myself with the road. And it honestly, if it wasn't for those tapings, I don't think I'd be where I am now, because I was like every week on IWTV, you got to see what I could do. And once the world started to open up and everybody started to run again, that's when I got reached out to by Blitzkrieg and Grind when Grind started up. So if it wasn't honestly for the tapings, I don't think I'd be where I am.
Yeah, because the road is where I really was like, whoa, this guy's great. And it was funny because it really opened me up to some new wrestlers too that I wasn't as familiar with. And then, again, much like yourself over the last year, at least again, from a fan standpoint and what I watch, have really blown up over the last year. And you mentioned the pandemic was a positive thing for you. And I know that we all had a lot of difficulties and we had some peaks and valleys, but I like hearing stories like what you just said about how you pulled something positive out of the pandemic. And it sounds like you just worked hard and it paid off.
Yeah. Like I wasn't, my regular job hadn't really come back yet. Or no, I think it did come back, but luckily I was able to get the time off to do the shows. And like, I'm one of the few ring announcers in the state. And I've worked for Randy so much that he had me on the road, and I'm like, I have to be at all these shows. Like I wrote it off at work. I'm like, I need to be there for these. Like I took all three. It would be like, I think we would do like 3 days in a row, or like 2 to 3 days in a row of just tapings. My voice would be shot by the end of the last day. And I'd show up to work. I sounded like I had just screamed for like 3 days straight. But yeah, it was nice to kind of make a positive out of the pandemic, because it was rough starting out. Like I wasn't in a good headspace, but luckily with wrestling coming back, wrestling is what I go to get into a better headspace.
Okay. Do you change? Speaking of voice, do you change your voice at all when you do a ring announcing?
Kinda. I definitely have like a more, like I project more, and I have my ring announcing voice. It's kind of like how everyone has a customer service voice. I definitely changed mine a bit, but it's not too far off from what you're hearing now, I feel.
Okay. All right, cool. Today's day and age, especially with AEW and going to a few of their live events, we're seeing referees and their ring announcers having a fan base and people cheering for them. Has that happened with you yet?
I feel maybe. I feel like when I first started ring announcing, like people were just happy that the show was starting. But I feel like not only are people happy that the show is starting, but they're happy I'm there. I have been recognized a couple times out in public, and it still throws me off.
Oh yeah.
I was out eating with my family. We're leaving, and some guy's like, "Hey, you're the ring announcer for Let's Wrestle. Can I get a picture with you?" I'm like, "Sure." Like, never had this happen before. This is great.
Oh man, that's awesome. So, is there going to be an Ethan Scott T-shirt then?
Probably not. Probably not.
Why not?
I feel like you really have to be like a legend as a ring announcer to like have a shirt. Like Rich Palladino has one. Rich is a legend. Like he's on, and he's my mentor, honestly. I'll when I'm preparing for a show, I'll watch Wrestling Open, and if I know someone that's gonna be on the show was also ring announced by him, I'll listen to him because he's so thorough of like where they're from, their weight, their nicknames, like gets all the info out. And I feel like I'm going off on a tangent there. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And yeah, like he's so good that I feel like when you're someone like Rich, you can have a shirt because you're a legend. And I don't feel I'm anywhere near that.
All right.
No
how often? Before I let Jack take over, how often do you practice?
Oh, like getting my voice warmed up, or just like practicing like reading the names out.
Oh, just I know when people cut promos, they'll cut a promo. It's like, hey, I'll look at Jack. How's this sound? Or if I'm working on a bit for Jack's show or my show, I'll run it across. Jack, how about we do this? Or I'll talk to my other co-hosts and say, hey, how about we do this? Or how would this work off? or I would rehearse what I'm going to say. How often do you rehearse? Because I know the boys and girls, they rehearse their promos. Do you rehearse? Do you like sit back and making his way to the ring area? Do you practice that way?
Kinda, yeah. Like I'll read over all the info for somebody, especially if I've never ring announced them before, and like figure out where the infliction's gonna go, how I'm gonna make it sound. Because to me, infliction's very important. So like I'd hate to like ruin someone's announcement by like inflicting wrong or like forgetting something. So I do it quite often, especially with those I haven't announced before. Like with Blitzkrieg, I practiced Evil Uno a couple times because I fanboyed a little bit announcing Uno. Yeah, I do it quite a bit.
All right. Jack!
I mean, that was a great show, by the way. That was so much fun. And I love the consistency at indie shows, whether it's the performers. Like, I love seeing like guys like CPA at the Blitzkrieg Pro shows. But I love it when there's a consistent ring announcer, too. So I think it's been awesome for me. And I know my son agrees. You know, he really likes that. Like, you're at every show now. You're at every pro wrestling grind. You're the, you know, you associate you now with like Limitless and other companies. So to me, that's a real positive. And I've asked a lot of the wrestlers that we've had on this question. I'm just wondering from your perspective if it's any different, because I don't know what your day is like. But I'm sure it's different with each company. But let's say a lot of the weekends, I know you're doing two different events. So you might be doing a show like on Friday night. We got Blitzkrieg coming up this Friday we'll talk about. And then you might be doing another show on Saturday. So if you're coming from Maine and let's say, you know, you got to go Connecticut one night, Massachusetts the next, what time are you leaving? Like, how many hours do you spend on the road? Do you have to prepare your voice?
So it's usually like, I want to say, depending on where, if it's Mass or Connecticut, like maybe 5 to 6 hours. And I usually ride out of state with MSP. So I'll hit them up, be like, hey, because they've gone on the road longer than I have. So I'll be like, hey, when do you guys want to leave? Like, what's the easiest time? Because they have it all planned out. So we'll usually leave around maybe like 10-ish. Like I said, on the road for maybe like 5 to 6 hours. And I don't know. I don't really like prepare my voice. Like I try to make sure I'm not like screaming metal on the way down. Like we'll listen to something and I'll get really into it. I'm like, I probably shouldn't do this before I have a show, so I don't throw out my voice randomly and have to go to the Blitzkrieg and be like, hey, I know I sound like a chain smoker. I'm sorry.
All right, so what do you... I'm sorry, Jack. I find this intriguing because I'm on the other side of the mic. I'm on the other side of the camera more than you, Jack. No disrespect, but you know I'm on this side 2 times a week plus. What do you do to keep your voice going? Is there anything that you drink? Anything special? Any type of water that you drink? What do you do to maintain your voice so you can change the optic level whenever you need? Or what do you do? How do you prepare? I love to ask this question of different performers, whether it be another podcast or DJ or whatever, because I would love to do that for my voice. So how do you maintain your voice? What is your regimen for maintaining your voice?
I've never really thought about it, but I mostly just try to stay as hydrated as possible. Like if I feel like there's any phlegm, I try to clear it out before a show. But yeah, just mostly water. Try to make sure the pipes are clean.
Okay. All right, Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because I was thinking about the same thing. Like I wondered, like, do you sit in silence for 5 or 6 hours because you got to maintain your voice? You realize, like, hey, I don't only just have one night; I got 2 nights to deal with, and plus, you know, you may be traveling. Like again, you know, say, like again, if you're doing Blitzkrieg Friday night, I don't know if like you're probably not going back to Maine if you got to come back to Connecticut the next day. So there's always a different regimen going on, and it sounds like now you're pretty busy. Your schedule seems packed. Is this the busiest that you've been ring announcing?
Oh, most definitely. Because I would do, when I first started out, it would be like IWE. I mean, and I would always do sound for Limitless. So like I'd always have Limitless on my plate, but I'm just setting up the sound and I'm playing the music. But this is definitely the busiest because this month and next month I have at least 4 shows. And I feel like last month it was like a weekend of shows and then a weekend of shows, and it was the same for this month. Like last week, I had Grind and Let's, and this week I have Blitz and Limitless. Luckily, with Limitless, I'm just doing sound unless they need me for anything else. But this is definitely the busiest I've ever been because I have like at least 4 to 5 different promotions like in my rotation. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Can you clarify something for me? I'm going to expose my ignorance on something, but I've never been in person to a Limitless show, and I've never been to a Let's Wrestle. Are those two promotions associated with each other?
Yes. So how I like to describe it is Let's is kind of like the NXT for Limitless. Because in the early days of Let's, we had guys like Mortar, we had Alec Price, we had Rip, we had Ava, and we had like a bunch of people that were like working their way up to be on Limitless. And eventually, Alec and Mortar, like they had feud of the year in Let's Wrestle. Like it was nuts. If you could find it on YouTube, it was an amazing, like everybody was hooked. Like even us, we were like, we wanted to see what was going to happen next. They both made it to Limitless. And now you look at Alec, he's the champ. So they're associated in that way. And it's kind of neat to see like who's come through Let's and made it to Limitless and like the opportunities everyone's had. Is it like the roster, it's definitely changed now since we've started doing Let's again from like before. Because it feels like the guys that were on Let's before the pandemic are now on Limitless. So now we have a whole new wave of people that could potentially be on Limitless.
Right, because I mean, it seems like AEW just kind of steals anyone who is the Limitless champion. Well, not just AEW, but well, even NXT, right?
I'm working on it for Alec. I'm working on it, but I want to get I want to get Danny and Facade signed first because of the whole Ring of Honor deal, and then I'm working on Alex, so don't you worry about it.
Okay.
And if Ethan is polite to me, maybe I'll be his manager too. Because every time I offer my managerial skills to someone, what happens, Jack?
BSK is the champion at Blitzkrieg.
There you go. Every time I offer my managerial skills, they become a championship or AEW. They become a champion or AEW signs them. So now I'm thinking about putting a ring announcer in the repertoire and getting this gentleman down here signed somewhere. So how about that?
That'd be great. That'd be great. Because legit, one of my goals is to at least get a tryout with one of the televised promotions, whether it is AEW, Ring of Honor again, or like Impact. Like that is something I really want to do. I really want to try to do.
Fellow podcaster Carl Bird is in the house. What's going on, little brother? Well, nephew. He calls me Uncle Lou. So much love out to Carl. So
yeah,
now
we were talking about Limitless, and like Casanova is now at NXT, and then we got Danny Garcia at AEW,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of the people who really kind of built their name in Limitless, we've seen on AEW, NXT, all over the place. So, I mean, it is really cool that Limitless is obviously on the radar. And I think Alec Price had some kind of I don't know if I'd say a tryout. I don't know exactly what it was with WWE. So they clearly know who you are.
It's so neat seeing like all the people that have come up through Limitless and they're getting these chances. Because legit, every single Limitless champion goes to the big two. With Casanova going to NXT, and then like on AEW, you got MJF, and you have Daniel Garcia, and Anthony Green went to WWE, which was awesome. Like it was really neat to see like all these guys getting a chance to prove themselves like on a bigger stage.
Yeah, and AEW. I mean, the thing is, like, and we're going to see him at Blitzkrieg on Friday night. So he's just all over the place, and it's awesome to see. And we talk about this a lot, and it's not just because we're all from here, but I really feel the Northeast is such a powerhouse for pro wrestling, and it's undeniable. I mean, look at the promotions that you're working for and all the shows that we're enjoying. I mean, look at Beyond. Alec Price just had a North versus South title victory. What was it, last week and Beyond? So, I mean, this guy's collecting belts at this point.
Oh, yeah. When I found out that he won the Bone Storm Championship, my jaw dropped. I'm like, really? Like, he's got 2 belts now. Like, holy shit, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Ethan,
awesome.
what was the weirdest thing? I mean, I know some of the boys would come up to you, and this includes the girls. I mean, we call the girls a part of the boys.
Yep.
What was some of the weirdest thing that one of the boys came up to you and said, "Hey, can you say this when I come to the ring?"
This actually happened at the last Blitz show.
Oh, really? Okay.
Jazzy Boatwright. And she came up to me and was like, hailing from your mother's bedroom. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, just add a bunch of things that you want, like before you start breaking. And I was just, as she's coming to the ring, I came up with, she's the reason your mom left your dad.
Oh!
And she didn't know I was gonna say that. So like I started laughing after that. I'm like, I can't think of anything else. I can't top that. And after the show, like she's talking to somebody, she looks at me, she's like, that was great. Thank you so much for that. But I feel like that's definitely been the weirdest that I can remember. There's one guy in Maine, he would change his whole character like month to month. So I've had to like I've had to say like all kinds of things for him, but I can't remember any of them. But I'm sure I've said some other weird things, but that one freshly sticks in my mind, and I love it. I love when people can come up with like really creative stuff for me to say, because it helps them stand out.
Who is your dream person, past or present, to announce to the ring? Who would you love to announce?
I've told this to everybody because I was a big ECW fan. I would love to announce Rhino.
Really?
Yes, Rhino. Like I've always liked Rhino. Like when I was training, I wanted to kind of like be like, I kind of look to him because he's like a big, thick torso guy, and I kind of have a thick torso myself. So I'm like, I kind of want to be like Rhino. I even wanted my hair to be like the length of his, but my hair's so curly it just poofs out. But he's someone I would love to announce because he's like, with just his name, you can put so much power behind it, and just I feel like that would be so much fun.
All right,
Well, you know
Jack.
what the good news is, Ethan, you're going to get to announce Sabu in May.
Hopefully, I'm hoping I can go down for that one. I saw the poster, and I'm like, oh, Sabu, this will be neat. This will be real neat because, like I just said, like ECW, and like Sabu had like such a cool intro.
Yeah. So that's close. I mean, maybe Rhino will be at the show. We don't know yet. Still a couple months away. Hard, never know who Jeremy's going to book down there. So that's kind of exciting. And it's interesting too. And I wonder because I guess my question is that leading up to it is that you must have seen a lot of strange stuff. And you've been to a lot of pro wrestling shows. You've seen a lot of different matches, a lot of different performers. And there was maybe the most ear-piercing scream that I've ever been present for, in addition to the loudest chop I may have ever been present for at the latest Grind show when Gary J fought Rick Mooney. And there was a dive out of the ring, and it looked like these two girls, who I love when these two girls are at the shows, and these two girls being whatever random pair of girls, are in the front row for the first time, and they see the dive coming, and they don't realize it's actually going to happen. I don't know if you were cringing as much as I was. The scream this girl let out was as though she was about to be run over by a Mack truck. Do you remember that?
Honestly, I don't. I was so focused on like just what Gary and Ryan were doing because they were going at it. Like I showed some of my friends. I'm like, you want to see the aftermath of one of the matches of the last show I worked? And they're like, sure. And like Ryan Mooney took like such a hellish punishment from Gary J. Like his chest was just, it looked like steak. He had that big mark on his neck. He's got a big mark under his eye. Like, oh man. But I agree with you. I love when people go to the shows not expecting dives, and then it's just right at them. Because especially at Grind, where like everything's so close together.
Yeah.
Like when there's a dive, there's going to be a dive. There's not like all that space in WWE for them to land and they kind of roll into it. It's like, nope, they gotta stop each other from going into the crowd, or else you're gonna get a wrestler in your lap.
Yeah, because I thought Delmy's match with Willow Nightingale was awesome, and there was an incredible dive right in front of you. Like they almost ran into you. And
yep. I kept hiding behind Torres. I'm just like, I'm gonna stand behind Torres because at least there's a table and then there's Torres. So like, there's 2 layers between me and them.
Have you ever gotten hit yet?
From a dive, I don't think so. Not from a dive.
But
I did have a match on the road. Yeah, I had a match on the road with someone who is 200 pounds bigger than me, and that hurt.
Well, speaking of the road, can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with the Limitless Dojo?
So for a while I was a student, and I mean, I guess I'm still a student, like ring announcing wise, because I'll tell Randy, like, hey, if there's anything you think I could be doing better, just let me know. Like, I'll work on it. But I trained with the dojo for quite some time. Yeah, that's pretty much most of my. Honestly, my involvement is just being a student there for a bit. But whenever like there's a ring needs to be set up for Let's and Limitless, and if I'm in the area, I make sure I help out with those as well.
Do you ever give anyone pointers? Is there anyone who comes up to you and says, "Hey, I want to be the next ring announcer. Can you help me out? Give me some pointers"?
I haven't had anyone directly, but there is another ring announcer in the state, and they've asked me how I stay so organized with my cards, or like how I have my cards structured out. And I always do it like I read top to bottom, so I'll do location, weight, nickname, name, and I always make sure like I leave a big space for the nickname, because some people have more than one that they want to get across. So I just say any nickname you can think of, just let me know, I'll write it down and I'll say it.
The Count of Monte Fisto, the King of Sting.
I think the longest one I've done was Mike McCarthy, because he had, I want to say at least 4 different things. Your humble narrator, the King of Oi style, Let's Wrestle's most valuable player. He had when he was the champ, the Let's Wrestle champ, and then Massel Mike McCarthy. So he had like 5 things. I think his was the longest I've ever done.
That's funny. I had a question for you about indie wrestling that always is perplexing to me. But again, leading into it, I remember being at a show for a company called Battlefront. I don't know if you know who they are. They tend to run in. Like,
the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're more like almost like sort of like a fledgling ECW, a lot of hardcore type stuff. But I remember the ring announcer was this very small woman, and they had the stairs set up so she could walk up to the ring, because the ring was fairly high. And at one point in between, there was a match happening, and this guy, must have been 3 bills, and he got hit with a chair, and one of his feet were on the stairs, and the impact was so hard, like his foot broke the stairs. And then the ring announcer didn't realize it. I was in the front row, and I remember just yelling to her, like, "Oh, watch out for the stairs." And she looked back and thanked me, and then she had to kind of like struggle to get up into the ring. And I don't know, as I've ever seen you at a show where I remember there being stairs into the ring. So, like, do you have any guys who set up stairs for you, or do you just have to do the role and perfect that?
I mean, I've had stairs in the past for other promotions. But yeah, just for Blitz and Grind, there's no stairs. I keep getting told for Grind, like, you're going to get stairs. So eventually I'll have stairs, but I guess that's where my wrestling training's paid off, because I just know how to slide into a ring and roll through. I had one person at Grind yell, "You need to figure out a better way to get in the ring." It's like, well, what do you want? Like, I don't dare try to hop up on the apron and step in, because I'm always worried I'm going to lose my balance, because sometimes there's not a whole lot of room. Like, I tried that at Blitz, and I'm like, I'm going to fall, so I'm just going to slide in, because this is the easier for me, and I'm going to get the suit cleaned after. Like, I try not to wear the same suit twice on a weekend, so.
Right.
Dirty if it's dirty, like, whatever.
Yeah, is it ever nerve-wracking for you, like, knowing that you're on some form of TV, whether it's IWTV or whatever, because Grind and Blitzkrieg are obviously going to be on IWTV, Limitless, you're all over YouTube. There's a lot of people watching you. Like, do you ever think about, like, hey, there's like 100,000 people who are going to watch this?
Not really. Like, it's never really bothered me. And I'm really surprised about that, because I used to be really shy. And when the first ever live shows I've done for Twitch and IWTV were both with Blitz, I didn't even really remember we were live. Like, I remember, I think Leary said something, and then I got down to the stage in Enfield, And I'm like, oh right, we are live. Like, so when am I gonna know to start? And they're like, we'll give you a countdown. But it's never really bothered me. I feel like because like I can't see all the people who see me. I'm focused on like everybody in the room. Like they can see me. And I've gotten so used to that it doesn't bother me anymore.
So you never had stage fright?
Oh, I did when I first started. Even when I was behind the table, my hands were shaking. No one was even looking at me. And behind the table, my hands going like this. I feel like I used to get really nervous before shows, but then after a couple breaths and like after the first match, I'm fine. It's like, okay, I know I'm in my groove. I got this.
How did you get the first time? How did you get over it?
Just deep breaths. Really, it just really steadied me out. Because I think Alexander Lee pointed that out to me. He's like, when you're nervous, notice you just like breathe. Like when we were doing the road, like I'd get nervous, and he's just like, you breathe, you deep breathe, and you're fine. Like you just got to keep doing that if you feel nervous.
All right. With that advice being said, what was the best advice anyone ever given you?
I have a horrible memory, so I can't really remember anything. So this always plays in my head, and this isn't basically just ring announcing, but just like wrestling in general. Like, not everyone is gonna have your best interest at heart. So it's like just kind of be wary of that. Just kind of like obviously, you know, you're gonna make friends with people, but like not everyone's gonna. They might act like your friend, but they're not gonna be your friend. You're really gonna know who's really there for you.
Okay. All right, Jack, go continue.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question too, because I think the world of pro wrestling, you know, again, only from a fan perspective, it just seems like, you know, I've had the good fortune of getting to know all the crew at Blitzkrieg really well, and it is like a real family environment. Like everyone knows everyone. I think there's a real level of trust. I don't think anyone thinks, you know, Jeremy is looking to backstab him, or, you know, he feels like he's always got everyone's best interest in mind. But I wonder, like, when you are approached by a new promotion about being their ring announcer, what do you take into consideration about whether or not you're going to do it?
Well, it depends on like if anybody else I know's been there, because that way like I can kind of know like what the area's like. Like I had never done NCW before, but luckily like Alexander Lee has been there forever. Like he's like a legend there, and like gave me told me like how the place was. It was a really good place to be, and it is a good place to be. Like I've only done their stuff a couple times, but like knowing like how the environment is, and like knowing if people I know have been there and like what they think of it really helps, because like if they're treated well there, then it's like, oh, they treat their people well, I'm more inclined to go than like, yeah, it's a thing. It's like, oh, I'm probably going to avoid that if it's a thing and it doesn't sit well.
Right. Like, do you book all your own stuff, or you have anyone you work with who kind of helps book events for you?
It's just me. Like I get like I'll hear from Randy or Rip or Leary, like, hey, I got this show coming up, or Delmy as well. I'll be like, hey, they're like, hey, I got this show coming up. Are you available? Look at my calendar. Be like, do you have anybody from my area coming down so I can ride with them? Usually they do, so I'll hop in the car with them. But yeah, it's just mostly me. And if it's somewhere, I haven't had anywhere too new reach out to me lately. But like if I do, I'll always take a look, like see what they're about, and also reach out to some friends and be like, hey, what's this place like?
Yeah, because I mean, you've got to have formed a pretty large community of friends at this point, having worked for so many promotions. Are there a lot of people that you kind of are friends with outside of wrestling, whether it be, you know, wrestlers, referees, you know, and commentators?
Oh God, yeah! Like pretty much most of the main crew with like Let's and Limitless. Like I've gamed with MSP. You know, I've hung out with Alexander Lee. Like outside of wrestling, like I want to hang out with everybody more, but we're all so busy. Whether it's we have a show, like one of us has a show, or just real life gets in the way. But like I'm pretty close. Like I have what I call like my wrestling friends, and they're separate from like everybody else in my life. But like they really are my friends. Like you know, if they're in trouble, I'll help them out. And like I got their back, they got mine.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, there seems like there's such a tight community in the world of pro wrestling. Like I know the same in comics. It's kind of an incestuous industry in a lot of ways. Everybody either knows everyone or they know about everyone, and I think that's a really cool thing that you've got going. And I have to ask because you brought it up. So gaming, are you a gamer? And if you are, give us your couple of favorites that you're playing right now.
Absolutely. I also stream on Twitch. I'm trying to get that off the ground, but I game quite a bit. I've been so busy with work, but I've been playing Mario Kart 8 a lot because I'm trying to 3-star every difficulty on every course. Been playing a lot of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Hunt Showdown, which is one of my favorite games, is getting a new event. So when that drops, I'm going to be deep into that. And right now, I'm trying to talk myself not to buy it. Really trying to talk myself not to buy it, but I really want Elden Ring. I really want Elden Ring because it's so much fun.
I had a conversation about Elden Ring last night. I'm not playing it. My other business partner, she is playing it, and she has a love-hate relationship with the game.
Yeah. I had a friend help me through most of Dark Souls. I still hadn't finished it, but I got through a really good chunk of it. And I know it's going to be one of those games where I'm going to hate myself, but I've also heard it's one of the better Souls-like games to get into because since it is open world, it's oh, you're stuck on this boss? I'm going to go this way because this guy looks a bit easier.
That's exactly what she was saying last night, where she was dying. That's it. Screw this. She was yelling at the TV. Her boyfriend came. What are you yelling at? Leave me alone. Her son. Leave me alone. She went somewhere else. Yeah, but that's what she was bringing up last night. Do you play any of the wrestling games?
I did. The last one I got was 2K19. I always try to wait with WWE games since 2K's taken over. Because I loved when THQ had it. Because some of my favorite games are the original SmackDown versus Raw and Here Comes the Pain. Because with Here Comes the Pain, I loved how you had a storyline no matter what you were doing, and it would constantly change. Oh, my camera's going foggy. It would constantly change depending on what you were doing. And my guy was a little OP, so I would win almost all the belts on Raw, get really bored, and then just go to SmackDown and win all the belts over there. Yeah, I want to get 2K22 because I've seen my buddy Bill Vox make almost every promotions arena in 2K, and he's done Limitless, he's done Blitzkrieg, he's done Grind, he's done everything, and the creation looks really, really good. So I want to take my hand at that. I'm horrible with the faces, but I love designing the gear for everybody and coming up with characters for people.
All right. Now, do you collect comics? I mean, you had some Pokemon stuff back there, and you got some toys.
So whenever I do comics, it's always the trade paperbacks because I like having multiple issues to read at once. Because you can go through. Thank you, Eric. I'll read the trade paperbacks. I haven't done that for a while. I've gotten back into manga and anime because a friend of mine, we were playing this VR chat, and she saw an avatar for a character. She's like, "Oh, I want to be them." I'm like, "What are they from?" And they explained Demon Slayer to me. So that really got me back into that. So I've been reading Demon Slayer. I just got into Chainsaw Man, which is really, really weird. I have. I'm trying to. What do I have for comics? I have the entirety of Transmetropolitan.
Yes, nice.
My brother got me into that, and I wanted to get just the original, first print trade paperbacks, but it was really hard. But I have them all. I was reading The Walking Dead. I forget where I was at. It was really late on in the books, and then I was reading Saga, which was really good.
Oh, okay, yeah, good, cool.
If you haven't read Preacher, it's a must.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, Preacher's the real deal. Saga, I'm just rereading. It's funny you say that because I just bought the 5th trade, and I wanted to get half a dozen of them so I could just plow through them. Because I started reading it, I abandoned it, so I'm getting back into it. And by the way, you have a very fine taste in artwork and prints. I see a bright yellow background behind you. It's very nice, and there's a new one I'll add to your collection on Friday.
Hey, I need to get more. Frame picture frames because the one I have, well, you can see the reflection I can't. The reflection right there. That's the market as 0-1.
Oh, nice.
But I got the frame from Walmart, and the bottom half of it broke, and it actually slipped out once. But luckily, it's fine, and it's hanging up. I need to get frames for the other ones, so I can have Rip Bison on the wall judging me everything I do.
Well, luckily you have connections if you ever need another one, so you know who to reach out to.
Hell yeah! I showed all my friends that, and they thought those were really neat.
Whoa.
Very cool. Well, CPA is featured on the next one, and I have to say, like, it really makes me laugh out loud when I'm looking at it right now. And he's my son's favorite wrestler in the indies, so I'm super pumped about this one. And by the way, next time you see Nolan at a show, he will try to sell you on Elden Ring, because he is all about it.
I want it. Like, I'm sold. I'm like, I might buy it after this. I don't know. I'm like debating, like, do I really want to spend money right now? Do I really want to spend money? But I think I might, just so I have it. So when I get back from wrestling, it's like, all right, I can just dive into this.
Yeah, totally. As a matter of fact, Nolan has convinced me to buy the new Lego Star Wars game, which has like 12 campaigns, including Mandalorian. And we used to play those Lego games all the time. So we're about to get into a resurgence of the Lego games over here.
I loved the Lego games. I missed when they didn't talk. I loved when it was just like the really silly, like they made like huh noises, but there was no dialogue.
Yeah,
it was all just like improv. It was so good. What I love about the new Star Wars one is it's completely different from the others.
right.
Like instead of just mashing a button, swinging the lightsaber, like there's actually like a fight mechanic. It's
Right.
like, oh, they decided, oh, we're not going to do our usual one. We're going to put some gameplay in this.
Yeah, and a lot of content too. There's a
yeah.
ton to go through. So we may be geeking out about that next time we see you.
All right.
What was the worst hit, worst botch, or the worst anything you've witnessed so far?
Oh my god. I can tell you a funny botch, and then I'll try to think of like a bad one. Like, is this one that no one got hurt? A tripod leg got bent, but this was my early days in IWE. We were in this little bar in Dexter, Maine, and I hated setting the ring up in there because it's on the dance floor and there's only one door to get everything in and out. But there was this guy who got the nickname Curtain Botch after this because he comes out, he's the baby face, he's like, let's go, and his arm gets wrapped in the curtain, and he throws his fist, and the entire entryway comes down. And Randy Carver gives me crap for this every single time. He's like, you just sat there and watched it. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to stop that car crash. It was hilarious. Entryway comes down and just takes out the camera. And it's the funniest thing. Like, looking back on it, it's hilarious. It's like, from where I'm sitting, I can see into the locker room, and I think I saw someone just kind of stand there, look at me, and then went out of sight. But that was the funniest thing. For like really bad botches. Oh, I'm trying to think.
Anything that was cringeworthy. You're like, oh my god, are they okay?
Oh man, I'm trying to think because like the ones, of course, it's always at the shows I'm not at when I hear about them, and there's just some that are bad. Like this one kid took a belly to belly and like dislocated his shoulder. It was at a show I wasn't at. I'm trying to think of like what else happens. But I apologize. Like I said, my memory is garbage, but I can't remember any really bad botches. I do have a story of one that was way before my time. If you guys want to hear it, so there's footage of it. I'm not gonna say any of the names, but this one guy went to go. I think he was standing on the second rope. His opponent's on the outside on a table, and he went to go dive onto the table. Well, he was supposed to go through it while his opponent missed, so he went through the table. He overshoots it, so when his opponent rolls off the table, he just lands on him instead, and completely misses the table, and he like half lands on the ground. I think his leg hits his opponent, but the rest of him hits the ground, and I've seen that footage so many times. Because one of my friends has it, and I die every time because it's just like, God, the table's right there. Like, how did you overshoot that? How did you overshoot the table? And he wasn't even that high up.
Jack, question.
So, do you watch a lot of pro wrestling? I mean, you're obviously it's a big part of your life. I mean, you're part of the show. You're working for all these different companies. You're traveling. Do you still tune in during the week? Do you watch, MLW, AEW, NXT, WWE? Are you on IWTV?
So I don't have any cable. Sadly, I don't have a way to watch AEW because I would watch that. I really don't pay attention to WWE anymore. Like I'll see stuff on social media, but I do tune into IWTV every now and then. Like other than just doing research for shows, and and this is weird because I have a phobia of blood, but I love watching deathmatch wrestling. And
Really?
if there's if I love tournaments. So if there's a deathmatch tournament, I on IWTV, I try to watch it because some of the stuff those guys do is absolutely insane, and I will never shit on a deathmatch wrestler because they are doing stuff that I could never dream of doing. They are putting their bodies through so much pain and going through all that, and it's just it's insane to watch. It's interesting to watch too, just to see all the creative ways they use weapons.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt. I mean, Lewis and I talk about this a lot. It's really not. I don't think either of us are really big deathmatch guys, but I certainly appreciate, like you're saying, what the craft and what the wrestlers are doing. I'm not necessarily a big proponent of it all the time. I think it's wise to pick your spots for that kind of thing. But have you ever been in a situation at a live show where you've gotten so close, or there was blood flying so far that you were in danger of sort of being splattered with blood?
Never splattered, but there have been a handful of shows where there's been a lot of blood around. A couple Limitless shows, like when it was AR Fox versus Ace Romero, and that Fans Bring the Weapons.
Oh yeah.
Turned into a Fans Bring the Death match. When Chris Stat and Ashley Vox had their wars, I ring announced a deathmatch show. It wasn't anything big, and it was an out of state company doing something in Maine, but I told the guy, I'm not comfortable with blood. I'll do the show, but he's you don't have to be in the ring. You can stay behind the table. Don't worry about it. We won't have you get in the ring. But I've never had blood splatter on me. I I remembered at one of the Blitz shows. It was Market Zero when Matthew Raywaltz got his nose busted. I didn't realize there was blood in the ring. I didn't realize how much blood there was in the ring until I get in there, and I'm just oh. Okay, I hope I don't step in any really wet places, so I don't track that everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I didn't realize how busted up he was either at first.
Oh,
that was rough.
Yeah, it was I knew it was busted, so I saw a little bit of red here, but I didn't think there was that much in the ring, and I'm just oh no, he's dripping, that's not good.
Yeah, big time. I mean, the other thing too is I'm just curious about, because you talked a little bit about your time travel. Your
time travel.
I wish that'd be fun.
Doctor Who show. I'm on the wrong show. But
1.21 gigawatts.
Is there a different call time for every different company? Is it hard to keep track? I'm going to Blitzkrieg, I got to be there at 3, or I'm going to Grind, I got to be there at 4. Is it something that you have to stress about? How does that work for you?
Not really, mainly because I'm not the one driving. So no, there's not. Everybody seems to run roughly around the same time, and I'm in a group chat with MSP whenever we leave, and we're all on the same show, and we try to leave around the same time each time, and it gives us enough time to get there, enough time before we're supposed to be there, so we can say hi to everybody, get all of our stuff figured out. I don't think we've had to worry too much. I think maybe there was one time years ago. It was me, Alexander Lee, and Calvin Strange were doing a North Atlantic Wrestling Association, and we legit walked in as the national anthem's playing, and I was just doing sound at that point, and luckily the promoter was right behind the sound table, and I booked we kind of snuck in, and I got there. He's like, "Thank you for making." I'm I'm so sorry, we're late. We got into the wrong lot, and we were running behind.
Have you ever gotten lost? Because I think that if you weren't local, like when you're coming from Maine, when you go to the pro wrestling grind show, like that area is easy to sort of miss. Like, is that ever something that you're like, oh my God, I can't find the place?
That's what Google's for.
We usually we'll definitely when we get closer, like out of Maine, we'll definitely use like the event page. But like we were a little confused at the last Blitz show because like that mall's not like any other mall I've been into. So, like, we were really lost. We're like, okay, like we had instructions on where to go, but we were just like, are we sure? Like we're near the mall. Are we sure we're in the right entryway? Like, are we on the other side of the building? Like, we were a little confused. But I think that's like the only time. Like usually we like Google's been pretty good to us.
Nice. Are you a beer guy or a certain kind of food guy? Like when you're traveling to shows, is there something that you look forward to trying when you go somewhere?
So I'm not really a beer guy. I'm a cider guy. Gotcha. So usually, like if there's like a local cider, I try to like find that. Food wise, I'm always crossing my fingers. There's pepperoni combos because I seem to can't find them anywhere. Like I'll see the little stand for them, but they're gone. I don't know why. They're just gone. But one thing I'm always excited for, and a lot of my friends make fun of me for this, is whenever we go to grind, because there's a 7-Eleven, there's not many in Maine, I can find Liquid Death. And I know it's just water, but it's so crisp, and I love the aesthetic because I love heavy metal. So like I'm excited for Liquid Death anytime I go down to grind. I always try to stop at that 7-Eleven.
Nice. All right. Well, that's good to know. All right. I live right down the road from Rip, as Lewis likes to point out. So I'm right near that 7-Eleven. I'll try to remember to pick you up a Liquid Death on our way down.
I appreciate it.
So we're running out of time, and I don't want to sell you short. We know that there's no Ethan Scott T-shirts yet, but do you want to promote any upcoming events? I mean, I know you've got at least one this weekend, and I think we've got another Limitless this weekend too, right?
Yep. So in Enfield, Connecticut, Blitzkrieg presents Energy. It has Speedball Mike Bailey versus Alec Price. Has Anthony Green versus Travis Huckabee. So far announced there's a triple threat tag team match. Message to you, the CDC and the Apostles of Chaos, and also MSP is issuing out an open challenge to anybody to challenge them for their tag titles. And then the next day in Yarmouth, Maine, Limitless Wrestling presents The Thrill of It. It has Jonah versus Speedball Mike Bailey. There's a triple threat match between Rip Bison, Anthony Green, and JD Drake for a number one contendership. I'm forgetting names, so I'm trying to go over to the Facebook and find the event. Just announced as I open Facebook, the God Queen Delmi XO versus the Russian Dynamite Masha Slamovich. So nice. that's gonna be brutal. That's gonna be so good. Oh, there's one I'm missing. Let me scroll.
Is Alec Price? I think Alec Price is wrestling, isn't he? I can't remember who his opponent is. I think he has, or maybe I'm thinking beyond. Sorry.
So I found the Alec Price one because I knew the initials, but I didn't know which came first. But it's Alec Price defending the Limitless Wrestling World Championship against Brian Keith in his Limitless Wrestling debut. And I've seen Brian Keith before, and I am super excited for that. Like I've seen him on IWTV, and I cannot wait.
That's awesome. I mean, Alec Price can have a great match with the broomsticks. So that's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. Oh my God. He's been having banger after banger, like anybody he steps in the ring with. Like he is so good, and his style has evolved so much since when like I first met him in Let's. It's insane.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you have anything else that you wanted to talk up beyond this weekend, or are we good?
Can you mind if I promote myself a little bit?
Oh, please. That's what we're here for. Please.
And that's all the time we have for tonight. No.
If you want to know wherever I'm going to be in New England in professional wrestling, all of my social medias are at Ethan Scott 207 on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I use Twitter and Instagram more, trying to get better with Facebook. I am a gamer, and if you like gaming, check me out on Twitch. It's at the Muffin Man 130 underscore between everything. Muffin's my nickname, so I'm the Muffin Man. That's why that's my
And
handle.
that's for a totally different show.
Yep. But yeah, that's where you can find me on for wrestling, for gaming. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, that's awesome, man. We really enjoyed having you here. It's been something I wanted to do for a while, so I'm really glad that you had time to come on tonight. And we're really looking forward to seeing you at Blitzkrieg, and I'll be seeing you all over IWTV either way.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. This has been a blast.
Awesome. Jack, please tell everyone where they can find you, your Patreon, and find us each and every week.
I will. So, Ethan, if you can hang on, I just want to say a proper goodbye for you before we go. But if you are looking to support the arts out there, my birthday is coming up on April Fool's Day, and it might explain a lot about me. So, if you're looking to throw out a birthday present to Jack Purcell, check out my Patreon at patreon.com. There's some cool stuff. As a matter of fact, it's the only place you can see my Blitzkrieg work unless you have the good taste like Ethan Scott to pick up the originals at stores. So if you want to see the pencils for the CPA piece that is going to be coming up on Friday and the finished art, that's the only place you can see it, and all kinds of other goodies there. So a lot of progress shots, patreon.com. You can find me at Jack Purcell Inc., INK, on Instagram and Facebook. We're Faces and Heels on Instagram, Faces and Heels Podcast on Facebook. And then we got this guy over here.
You can find me each and every Monday night with my sister from another mister, the one and only That Wonder Woman, Jamie Dolan, on the Angry Geek Show. And every Tuesday night right here with my tag team partner like no other, the one and only Ink Slinging Jack Purcell. I am Louis Perry. That is Jack Purcell. We are the Faces and Heels. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and with Ethan. Make sure you find Ethan on all his social media pages. We will see you guys live next week, and I think we're going to have another guest. And we're also going to change up the format a little bit. I'm going to give you a match every week. My pick of match of the week. It could be a match of the past or a match of the present. You're never going to know, but we're going to do that. So, without further ado, stay safe. Stay classy, San Diego.
Are found.